Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, it's good to know your enemies. Actually, it's only good to know your enemies if you're willing to stop their actions. But if you're not willing to do so, then you just as well sit back and watch what happens. Now, some in the cattle industry view RCAF USA as the enemy. They claim we've been crying wolf for decades. And what they point to is our warning that the highly concentrated beef industry wants to vertically integrate the cattle industry. That is, we've warned that the beef packers want to chickenize the cattle industry by controlling the entire live cattle supply chain, from birth to slaughter. But our opponents say there's no way the packers can chickenize the live cattle supply chain because cattle don't lay eggs and they don't have litters. They only have one calf each year. And they say cattle production requires significant amounts of land and forage, making it difficult to integrate. And they say that even though the last segment of the live cattle supply chain, the feedlot segment, is conducive to chicken-type vertical integration because that's where the cattle are confined, there's still no way the packers can exert control over the feedlot industry. Now, all of that is laughable. The packers are trying to chickenize the cattle industry, just as we've been saying. Now, almost 25 years ago, in 1998, Beef Magazine published an article titled Integration and featured agricultural economist Clem Ward from Oklahoma State University. Now, Clem Ward stated back then that integration was perhaps a way for the beef industry to regain market share, to increase productivity and profitability. He was quoted as saying, "I think we are going to see some integration in the beef industry, and we need to see it." But he said it would be different than the vertical integration in the poultry and hog industries. You see, Clem Ward predicted there would be more implied and written contracts between packers and feeders, and between feeders and stockers and cow-calf operators. And he said more alliances will come on the scene to create more formality to the contracts. In other words, the prediction was that the cattle and beef industries would become vertically integrated through contracts. And Clem Ward cautioned way back then that vertical integration through contracts would raise concerns about the loss of price discovery and the ability to discover the true value of cattle. He was quoted as asking the rhetorical question, if 30% of cattle are tied up in contracts, are the other 70% enough to ensure true price is discovered? Did you catch that? Nearly 25 years ago, economists like Clem Ward were concerned about price discovery if the cash market shrank to the 70% volume level and 30% of the cattle were tied up in vertical integration contracts, which the industry now calls alternative marketing arrangements, or AMAs. So fast forward to today. The cash market has shrunk to about the 20% volume level, and 80% of cattle are tied up in vertical integration contracts, or AMAs. And today, there are still many in our industry that still argue that the market is functioning just fine with a 20% cash volume level. In fact, that's what a September 2020 Beef Magazine article just said. It said beef and cattle prices reacted the way they should have in the wake of the Tyson fire in Kansas last summer, and following the massive supply and demand shock imposed by the pandemic. The article described this as the bottom line interpretation of the price investigation completed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So today, even with evidence that the U.S. cattle industry already is becoming vertically integrated, the question still remains, are there still forces at work trying to more fully chickenize the cattle industry? And the answer is a resounding yes. In an opinion published this month in the beef packing industry's trade publications, author Mark Graves, a corporate strategist, argued that neither Congress nor federal regulators should be investigating the market impacts caused by the concentrated beef industry. Instead, Mark Graves suggests the entire beef industry should be integrated from conception to consumption. Now, lest there be any doubt, Mark Graves, the corporate strategist, stated the integration model envisioned for the cattle industry is the exact integration model adopted by the chicken industry over 40 years ago, propelling chicken consumption to surpass beef, with a spread continuing to grow to this day. So there it is. We didn't cry wolf back then, and we're not crying wolf today. We're simply explaining what will happen to your industry if you don't begin fighting against your enemies to stop them from chickenizing your U.S. cattle industry. To learn more about how to do that, join with us and go to www.labelourbeef.com. With that, have a productive week. Thank you and goodbye.